The first ships appeared on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Sarah Kim was drinking her coffee when every screen in the International Space Station started flashing red warnings. She floated quickly to the main observation window and saw them. Massive. Black shapes hung in space like sleeping giants. Each ship was bigger than any city on Earth. "My God," she whispered, "how many are there?" Her colleague Marcus Chen pushed himself over to another window. "I count 12, no, 15, they just keep coming." Down on Earth, people stood in the streets pointing at the sky. The alien ships were so large they blocked out the sun in some places. Children cried, adults took pictures with their phones. Nobody knew what to think. President Martinez called an emergency meeting in Washington. Military leaders from around the world joined. By video call, everyone had the same question. What did these visitors want? The answer came 6 hours later. Every television, radio, and computer on Earth received the same message at the same time. The voice was calm and pleasant, speaking perfect English. "People of Earth, we are the HFY Collective. We have watched your species for many years. You have shown great promise. We invite you to join our peaceful federation of worlds. Together we can explore the galaxy and share knowledge. We come in friendship." The world celebrated. Humanity was not alone. These advanced beings wanted to be friends. Politicians gave speeches about a new age for mankind. Scientists dreamed of learning alien technology. Children drew pictures of friendly aliens in their classrooms. Marcus Chun was not celebrating. Something felt wrong. He had studied the ships with every instrument the space station had. The aliens had weapons, lots of weapons. More weapons than any peaceful visitors would need. "Sarah," he said, floating over to her workstation, "look at these energy readings. These ships could destroy our entire planet in minutes." Sarah looked at the data on her screen. Her face went pale. "Maybe they just want to protect themselves." "We probably look scary to them too." Marcus shook his head. "No, look at the positioning. They are not exploring. They are surrounding us." 3 days later, the HFY landed. Their ships came down in major cities around the world. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing. The aliens looked almost human, but taller and thinner. Their skin was gray and smooth. Their eyes were large and black. They wore simple white robes. The leader of the Earth delegation was called Commander Vex. He spoke with world leaders in the United Nations building. Cameras recorded everything. The whole world watched. "Your species has great potential," Commander Vex said. His voice was soft and kind. "But you are still young, still learning. We want to help you grow, to become better than you are now." "What kind of help?" President Martinez asked. "We will take your best people, your smartest minds, your strongest bodies. We will teach them, train them. They will learn things your world cannot imagine. Then they will return and share this knowledge with everyone." The world leaders looked at each other. It sounded wonderful. Earth's greatest people would learn from an advanced civilization. Humanity would leap forward thousands of years in technology and wisdom. "How many people?" asked the Secretary General of the United Nations. Commander Vex smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Only a few million. We will choose carefully. The ones who can learn the most, who can handle the training." That night, Marcus could not sleep. He kept thinking about the aliens' words. Something was very wrong, but he could not prove it. He decided to send a message to his sister in Beijing. "Lisa, something is not right about these aliens. If anything happens, get out of the city. Go to the old farm where we used to visit Grandpa. Hide there until I can contact you." Lisa wrote back quickly, "Marcus, you are being paranoid. These beings are here to help us. The whole world is excited. Why are you so worried?" "Just trust me," Marcus typed, "please." The selection process began the next week. The HFY set up stations in every major city. They called it evaluation centers. People lined up for hours to be tested. Everyone wanted to be chosen. 2. Be part of humanity's great adventure. The tests were strange. The aliens used devices that scanned people's bodies and minds. They asked questions that seemed to have no answers. They made people perform physical tasks. Young adults were tested first, then teenagers, then children. Marcus watched the news. From the space station, his sister Lisa had been selected. So had millions of others. The chosen ones were told to report to the alien ships in 1 week. They could bring nothing with them. Everything they needed would be provided. "This is the greatest day in human history," the news reporter said. "Our best and brightest are about to begin a journey that will change our world forever." Marcus felt sick. He tried calling Lisa, but she did not answer. He tried calling his parents, no answer. He tried calling friends, nothing. On the day of departure, crowds gathered around the alien ships. Families said goodbye to their chosen loved ones. People cried happy tears. The aliens had promised the selected humans would return in 2 years with amazing knowledge. Marcus watched through the space station's telescopes as millions of people walked into the alien ships. The doors closed behind them. The ships lifted off from Earth and disappeared into space. That night, Commander Vex appeared on television again. "The first group has begun their training. We are very pleased with your species. In fact, we have decided to select more people, many more. We want to give as many humans as possible this wonderful opportunity." The second selection began immediately. This time, the aliens were not so careful about who they chose. Anyone healthy and young was taken. Then anyone who could work. The evaluation centers became processing stations. People were loaded into trucks and driven to the ships. Some people began to resist. They hid from the aliens. They refused to report to the processing stations. The HFY response was swift and terrible. Energy weapons that could destroy entire buildings. Flying machines that hunted humans through the streets. Soldiers in powered armor that could not be stopped by any human weapon. Marcus watched in horror as the aliens attacked New York City. Buildings crumbled. People ran screaming through the streets. The military tried to fight back, but their weapons were useless against the alien technology. Within 3 days, the resistance was crushed. Anyone who fought was killed. Anyone who hid was found and taken. The processing continued day and night. Millions more humans disappeared into the alien ships. The truth became clear. The HFY had not come as friends. They had come as hunters. Earth was not being invited to join a peaceful federation. Earth was being harvested. Commander Vex made one final announcement. "Your species has disappointed us. We offered friendship, but some of you chose violence. This makes our work more difficult, but we will continue. Your people will serve the collective, whether they choose to or not. Those who cooperate will be treated well. Those who resist will be eliminated." Marcus stared at the devastation below. His sister was gone. His parents were gone. Billions of humans had been taken or killed. The few million survivors hid in ruins and forests. Trying to stay alive, the alien ships finished loading their human cargo. One by one, they left Earth's orbit and disappeared into deep space. They left behind a broken world, empty cities, poisoned rivers, burning forests. Marcus was one of only a few hundred people still in space when it happened. The International Space Station had been ignored by the aliens. Too small to matter. He and the other survivors watched their world die from orbit. "What do we do now?" Sarah asked, tears floating in the zero gravity around her face. Marcus looked down at the dark planet below. Somewhere in those ruins, people were still alive, still hiding, still fighting to survive. His people, his species. "We survive," he said quietly. "We learn, we prepare. And someday we make them pay for what they have done to us." He did not know it yet, but Marcus Chun had just spoken humanity's declaration of war against the galaxy. 3 years had passed since the harvest. The earth below looked like a dead world. Cities stood empty and broken. Nature was slowly taking back the abandoned streets. Wild animals roamed through places where millions of people once lived. Marcus Chun had changed. His hair was longer now, streaked with gray. His face was harder. The soft scientist who once studied stars had become something else, something dangerous. He floated in the observation deck of the space station, Watching a group of survivors move through the ruins of London, they used the old subway tunnels to stay hidden. The aliens had left monitoring devices everywhere, but humans were learning to avoid them. Supply drop successful, Sarah Kim reported from the communications station. The London group received the medical supplies. They also sent us something interesting. She handed Marcus a small device. It looked like a black cube with strange symbols on its sides. They found it in an abandoned alien facility. It was damaged, but they managed to get it working. Marcus examined the device carefully. What does it do? It translates their language. We can finally understand what they are saying when they communicate with each other. For 3 years, the survivors had been listening to alien radio signals. The HFY still had monitoring stations on Earth, checking on their abandoned hunting ground, but they spoke in their own language, which no human could understand. Until now, Sarah activated the device. Strange sounds filled the air, then became words. Status report from Earth Monitoring Station 7. No significant human activity detected. Recommend reducing surveillance frequency. Marcus smiled for the first time in months. Finally. We can learn what they are really thinking. The communication device had come from the London survivors, but they were not the only group left on Earth. Small communities of humans existed all over the planet. Most were families who had hidden during the harvest. Some were soldiers who had escaped the initial attacks. A few were scientists and engineers who had valuable knowledge. Marcus had spent 3 years connecting these groups. The space station had become the center of a growing network. They used old radio equipment, satellite phones, and even hand-delivered messages to stay in contact. The survivors called themselves the Remnant. They were all that was left of humanity on Earth, but they were not giving up. In the ruins of Tokyo, a group led by former engineer Kenji Tanaka had built a workshop in an underground train station. They were taking apart every piece of alien technology they could find, learning how it worked, figuring out how to copy it. The power cells are incredible, Kenji reported during the weekly radio meeting. They store 1,000 times more energy than our best batteries. If we can learn to make them, we could power entire cities. In the Australian outback, a community of farmers and mechanics had discovered something even more important. The aliens had left behind damaged vehicles and equipment, machines that could be repaired with enough patience and skill. We got one of their hover cars working, reported Mary Sullivan, the group's leader. It is not perfect, but it flies. We are learning to pilot it. Marcus listened to these reports with growing excitement. The aliens thought they had taken everything valuable from Earth. They thought the remaining humans were just scared animals, hiding in holes. They were wrong, but the most important news came from space. Not from Earth, but from the captured humans in the alien slave camps. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been taken during the second wave of harvesting. She was a biochemist who specialized in studying how humans adapted to harsh environments. The aliens had put her to work in their medical facilities, testing human prisoners to find their limits. What the aliens did not know was that Elena was also a spy. She had learned to send coded messages using the alien communication systems. Messages that looked like medical reports but contained hidden information for the Remnant. Humans working in mines on Kepler 442b, Elena's latest message read. Conditions terrible, but humans surviving better than expected. Alien species cannot work in high radiation environments. Only humans can do the dangerous jobs. This makes us valuable. Also makes us angry. Sarah decoded more of Elena's messages. She says the humans in the camps are organizing. They have leaders, they are sharing information, they are planning something. Marcus felt a spark of hope. The captured humans were not just surviving. They were learning, adapting, getting stronger. What else does she say? The aliens are having problems. Their economy depends on slave labor, but they keep losing workers. Most alien species die quickly in the mining environments. Humans last much longer, but there are not enough of us. They are starting to worry. This was valuable intelligence. The HFY Collective ruled 12 worlds and controlled hundreds of star systems. They seemed all-powerful. But they had weaknesses. They needed workers who could survive in places that would kill their own people. The remnant began to see a pattern. Every piece of information they gathered pointed to the same truth. The aliens were not as strong as they pretended to be. Their empire was built on exploitation and fear. They took what they needed from weaker species and moved on. But humans were different. Humans did not break easily. They learned from their suffering. They remembered their enemies. Marcus started receiving messages from other groups he had never heard of. Survivors in remote places who had been hiding for years. Military units that had gone underground after the invasion. Scientists who had escaped with important research. One message came from deep inside a mountain in Colorado. "This is Colonel James Mitchell, United States Air Force. We have been monitoring your transmissions. We have something you need to see." When Marcus made contact with Mitchell's group, he discovered they had been busy. Very busy. The military survivors had not just been hiding. They had been working. "We saved some of our best weapons research before the invasion," Mitchell explained. "Experimental technologies that were still in development. The aliens never knew about them because they were classified." Sarah leaned forward eagerly. "What kind of technologies?" "Quantum communication. Arrays that cannot be detected. Electromagnetic pulse weapons that can disable their electronics. Stealth materials that make objects invisible to their sensors, and something else, something that could change everything." Mitchell paused dramatically. "We had been working on reverse engineering alien technology for decades. Ever since the Roswell incident. Most people thought it was just a crashed weather balloon, but it was not. We have been studying their tech for 70 years. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "You mean we already know how their technology works?" "Some of it, not everything, but enough to get started. Enough to build weapons that can hurt them." The revelation changed everything. The remnant was not starting from nothing. They had resources, knowledge, technology, and most importantly, they had something the aliens did not expect. They had time. The Kethra thought Earth was finished. A dead world with a few scattered survivors who posed no threat. They had moved on to harvest other species on other worlds. They were not watching Earth carefully anymore. This was their mistake. Marcus began coordinating a new plan. The scattered survivor groups would work together. The engineers would reverse engineer alien technology. The military would develop new weapons. The spies in the slave camps would gather intelligence and prepare the captured humans for what was coming. "How long do we need?" Sarah asked. Marcus looked at the stars through the observation window. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were suffering in alien labor camps, dying in alien mines, being treated like animals by their captors. 2 years, he said finally. 2 years to build what we need. To train our people, to prepare for war. Sarah nodded. And then Marcus turned away from the window. His eyes were cold and hard. "Then we show them what happens when you make humans your enemies." The message went out to every survivor group. On Earth, every spy in the alien camps, every human who still drew breath and remembered what they had lost. The time for hiding was almost over. The time for revenge was coming. The message came on a Wednesday morning. 5 years after the harvest, Dr. Elena Vasquez had managed to hide a quantum transmitter inside a medical scanner in the Kepler 442b mining facility. Her coded transmission reached Earth just as Marcus was reviewing supply reports. "Emergency broadcast," Sarah said, her voice tight with worry. "Elena says the aliens are planning something big." Marcus moved quickly to the communication station. Elena's message was longer than usual, filled with technical details about alien troop movements and supply shipments. But one part made his blood run cold. Public executions scheduled for all 12 worlds. Human resistance leaders identified and captured. Kethver High Command wants to make an example. Show other species what happens to rebels. Sarah looked up from her screen. "Marcus, she is talking about thousands of people, our people. The executions were planned for the anniversary of first contact. The aliens called it Unity Day, celebrating the day they had welcomed humanity into their collective. It was meant to be a final crushing blow to human resistance in the slave camps. What the HFY did not understand was that humans were different from every other species they had conquered. Other races broke when their leaders were killed. Humans became angry. Marcus sent an immediate message to all remnant cells on Earth and beyond. Operation Awakening is now active. All units prepare for immediate action. For 2 years, the survivors had been building toward this moment. Hidden factories and abandoned subway systems had produced weapons based on captured alien technology. Underground workshops had assembled communication equipment that could reach across star systems. Military teams had trained in secret camps. Learning to fight with alien weapons and tactics, Colonel Mitchell's group in Colorado had become the center of weapons development. They had successfully reverse-engineered alien shield generators, energy weapons, and even small spacecraft. The technology was crude compared to what the aliens had, but it worked. "We have enough equipment to arm about 500 fighters," Mitchell reported during an emergency conference call. "Not many, but they will be well equipped." The plan was ambitious beyond anything humans had ever attempted. Simultaneous strikes against HFY facilities on all 12 worlds, timed to coincide with the public executions. The goal was not just to rescue the condemned prisoners, but to show the galaxy that humanity was far from defeated. Dr. Elena Vasquez would lead the uprising on Kepler 442b. She had spent 3 years secretly organizing the human workers in the mining facility. They had weapons hidden throughout the complex. They knew the alien security patterns. They were ready. On Proxima Centauri B, former Marine Captain Lisa Torres had been captured during the second wave. She had used her military training to organize the humans in the industrial complexes. Her group had been planning their own breakout. For months, similar cells existed on every world where humans were held. Engineers who had learned alien technology, soldiers who had trained others to fight, scientists who had discovered weaknesses in alien equipment, all waiting for the signal. The executions were scheduled to begin at noon HFY Standard Time. The aliens had built special platforms in the center of each slave compound. Massive screens would show the executions happening on all 12 worlds simultaneously. Every human prisoner would be forced to watch their leaders die. Commander Vex himself would oversee the ceremonies. He had become the face of human oppression, appearing in propaganda broadcasts that were shown throughout HFY space. The aliens wanted other species to see what happened to rebels. Marcus watched the countdown timer on his screen. 6 hours until the executions began. 6 hours until humanity either struck back or was crushed forever. "Final equipment check," he ordered. The space station had been converted into a command center for the operation. Every screen showed different parts of the plan. Weapon stockpiles on Earth, spy reports from the slave camps, alien fleet positions throughout their territory. Sarah was monitoring communications from the slave camps. Elena reports her team is in position. Lisa's group on Proxima Centauri is ready. All cells are reporting green status. The first part of the plan began at dawn. Human sabotage teams on Earth attacked the alien monitoring stations. These facilities had been watching the planet for 5 years, making sure no dangerous activity was taking place. Kenji Tanaka's engineering team in Tokyo hit 3 stations simultaneously. They used electromagnetic pulse weapons developed by Colonel Mitchell's group. The alien equipment went dark in seconds. Similar attacks happened around the world: London, Sydney, Cape Town, Mexico City. Within 2 hours, the HFY had lost most of their surveillance network on Earth. They were blind to what was happening on the planet they had abandoned. But the real surprise was waiting in space. The aliens had left only a small garrison fleet in Earth orbit. 12 ships, mostly automated, just enough to respond to any major threat. The HFY never imagined that the primitive humans could build spacecraft capable of challenging their technology. They were wrong. The attack came from 3 directions. At once, ships built in hidden facilities on Earth's moon. Fighters constructed in asteroid mining stations that the aliens thought were abandoned. Even modified civilian spacecraft equipped with alien weapons. Marcus led the first wave himself, piloting a fighter that looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human engineering combined with alien technology. Crude but effective, fast and deadly. All units, this is Remnant Leader, he broadcast on an open channel. Today we show them that humanity is not broken. Today we take back our sky. The space battle lasted 40 minutes. Human ships were individually weaker than alien vessels, but they fought with a desperation the Kethver had never encountered. They rammed damaged ships into alien hulls. They used suicide attacks to disable enemy weapons. They fought like the survival of their species depended on it, because it did. When the last alien ship exploded, Marcus looked down at Earth from the bridge of a captured Kethver destroyer. For the first time in 5 years, Earth's sky belonged to humans again, but the real fight was just beginning. At exactly noon, Kethver Standard Time, the executions were scheduled to start. Screens throughout the slave camps lit up with images of the execution platforms. Commander Vex appeared on every display, wearing his formal robes of office. Today marks 5 years since humanity joined the collective, he announced. Unfortunately, some humans have chosen to resist our guidance. They have forgotten that we offered them friendship and cooperation. Today, we remind them of the consequences of rebellion. The first prisoner was brought onto the platform on Kepler 442b, Dr. James Rodriguez, a former NASA engineer who had been organizing escape attempts. The crowd of human prisoners was forced to watch as guards led him to the execution device. That was when Elena gave the signal. Explosions erupted throughout the mining facility. Human workers who had been pretending to watch the execution suddenly produced hidden weapons. Guards fell before they knew they were under attack. Within minutes, the humans had seized control of the entire complex. Elena appeared on the execution platform, holding Commander Vex's communication device, her voice broadcast to every screen in Kethver space. My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. I am a human being. For 5 years, you have held my people as slaves. You have worked us to death in your mines. You have separated children from their parents. You have treated us like animals. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Today that ends. Similar uprisings erupted on all 12 worlds at the same moment. Humans who had been planning and waiting struck with perfect coordination. Weapons caches were opened. Guards were overwhelmed. Communication centers were captured. The Kethver had made their greatest mistake. They had gathered all the human resistance leaders in one place, planning to execute them together. Instead, they had given humanity the perfect opportunity to strike back on every world simultaneously. Captain Torres led the assault on Proxima Centauri B. Her marine training had turned the industrial workers into an effective fighting force. They seized the spaceport and began broadcasting messages to other human groups throughout the galaxy on Gliese 667c. Former physicist Dr. Michael Chang had spent 3 years learning how the alien power systems worked. His team shut down the entire planetary defense grid, leaving the Kethver garrison helpless. Similar victories happened across all 12 worlds. Not complete victories. The humans were still outnumbered and outgunned, but they had achieved something the Kethver thought was impossible. They had fought back, and they had won. The executions had been meant to break human resistance forever. Instead, they had awakened something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that refused to stay defeated. The news of the uprisings spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every species in Kethver space knew that humans had done the impossible. They had fought back against their masters, and won. Marcus stood on the bridge of the captured alien destroyer, reading intelligence reports from across 12 worlds. The human uprisings had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. Not only had they rescued thousands of prisoners, but they had captured vital alien technology and strategic information. We have the complete Kethver military database, Sarah reported, her voice filled with excitement. Ship locations, weapon specifications, defense plans for every world in their territory. Colonel Mitchell's voice crackled over the communication. system from his base on Earth. This is better than Christmas morning. We now know where every HFY military installation is located. We know their troop strengths. We even know their supply schedules. But the most important discovery came from Dr. Elena Vasquez on Kepler 442b. Her team had captured the main communication center for the entire mining operation. Inside the alien computers, they found something that changed everything. Marcus. You need to see this, Elena transmitted from the captured facility. The HFY are not as powerful as we thought. Their empire is falling apart. The stolen files revealed the truth about the HFY collective. For 1,000 years, they had maintained control through fear and superior technology. But their system was built on a foundation of slave labor that was becoming impossible to maintain. The 12 species in the collective were not willing partners. They were conquered peoples, just like humanity. Most of them hated their HFY masters but were too afraid to rebel. The few species that tried to resist had been crushed so completely that their names were erased from galactic history. Look at these production reports, Elena continued. Their economy is in crisis. They need billions of workers to maintain their technology and infrastructure. But they keep losing people to accidents, disease, and resistance movements. The HFY had been counting on humanity to solve their labor shortage. Humans could work in environments that would kill most other species. They were intelligent enough to learn complex tasks quickly. They were supposed to be the perfect slaves. Instead, they had become the perfect enemies. Marcus studied the intelligence data with growing understanding. The HFY had made the same mistake that many powerful empires throughout history had made. They had become dependent on the people they oppressed. Without slave labor, their entire civilization would collapse. We are not just fighting for revenge, he realized. We are fighting for the freedom of the entire galaxy. The revelation changed humanity's strategy completely. They were not trying to escape from the HFY anymore. They were trying to destroy them. Captain Torres sent a message from Proxima Centauri B. Her team had not only captured the industrial complex but had turned it into a weapons factory. Using alien equipment and human engineering, they were producing new ships and weapons at an incredible rate. We have 30 fighters operational and 50 more under construction, she reported. The alien technology is amazing, but human improvements make it even better. We are building things the HFY never imagined. Similar reports came from all 12 worlds. Human engineers were taking alien technology apart and rebuilding it with human modifications. The results were weapons and ships that were faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything the HFY had. Dr. Chung Anglese, 667C, had made an even more important discovery. I figured out how their faster-than-light communication system works, he transmitted. We can intercept their messages. Better yet, we can send false messages to confuse their military. The HFY High Command was in chaos. They had lost contact with several worlds completely. The reports they were receiving made no sense. Human slaves were not supposed to be capable of organized resistance, much less successful military operations. Commander Vex called for emergency reinforcements from the HFY homeworld. He requested an entire battle fleet to crush the human rebellions before they could spread to other species. The HFY rulers agreed. They sent their most powerful warships and their best military commanders. They were determined to make an example of humanity that would prevent any other species from getting ideas about rebellion. They had no idea they were walking into a trap. Marcus and the other human leaders had been planning for this moment. They knew the HFY would respond with overwhelming force. They were counting on it. All units, this is Remnant Command, Marcus broadcast to every human cell across the galaxy. The enemy is sending their main fleet to crush us. This is our chance to hurt them where it really matters. The plan was called Operation Prometheus. While the HFY fleet was busy chasing human rebels on the 12 occupied worlds, other human teams would strike at targets throughout HFY space. Communication relays, supply depots, civilian infrastructure. Everything that kept their empire running, the operation required perfect timing and incredible courage. Small teams of humans would have to penetrate deep into enemy territory with minimal support. Most of them would probably not survive. But if they succeeded, they could cripple the HFY war machine. Lisa Torres, Marcus's sister who had been captured during the original harvest, led one of the most dangerous missions. She had escaped from a prison transport ship 6 months earlier and had been gathering information about HFY military installations. The main communication hub for their entire eastern sector is on Tau Ceti, she reported. It is heavily defended, but the defenses are designed to stop large fleets. A small team might be able to get through. Marcus wanted to order her to stay safe, but he knew better. Lisa had changed during her years in captivity. She was no longer the cheerful college student he remembered. She was a soldier now, hardened by suffering and driven by a desire for justice. "Be careful, sister," he said simply. Lisa smiled grimly. "Careful is not going to win this war, brother." The HFY battle fleet arrived at Kepler 442b first. 200 warships, the largest military force the aliens had assembled in centuries. Admiral Zektar commanded the fleet personally. He was the most experienced HFY military leader, a veteran of dozens of successful conquests. He expected to find a small group of desperate humans hiding in the mining facilities. Instead, he found a coordinated military force that had turned the entire planet into a fortress. The humans had used captured alien technology to build defensive shields around the major installations. They had hidden weapons platforms throughout the asteroid belt. Most importantly, they had learned to fight like humans instead of trying to copy alien tactics. The space battle began at dawn, local time. Admiral Zektar's fleet moved in perfect formation, using traditional HFY battle doctrine. Overwhelming firepower applied in precise, coordinated strikes. The humans responded with chaos. Fighter squadrons attacked from impossible angles. Suicide bombers rammed into capital ships. Booby-trapped asteroids exploded when the alien fleet tried to use them for cover. Nothing the humans did followed standard military procedure, which made it impossible for the aliens to predict or counter. "They fight like madmen," Admiral Zektar reported to HFY High Command. "They have no regard for their own lives. They sacrifice entire squadrons to destroy a single ship." What the Admiral did not understand was that humans were not fighting just for military victory. They were fighting for the memory of everyone they had lost. Every friend who had died in the slave camps. Every child who had been separated from their parents. Every dream that had been crushed under alien oppression. The battle lasted for 3 days. When it ended, Admiral Zektar's fleet was destroyed. The most powerful military force in HFY history had been defeated by former slaves, using captured equipment and improvised tactics, but the real victory was happening elsewhere. While the HFY fleet was being destroyed at Kepler 442b, human strike teams were attacking targets throughout their territory. Lisa Torres and her team successfully destroyed the communication hub at Tau Ceti, cutting off contact between dozens of HFY worlds. Dr. Cheng's team sabotaged the main power generation facility for an entire star system. Captain Rodriguez led a raid that captured a HFY research station, stealing the plans for their most advanced weapons. Within a week, the HFY collective was in complete disarray. Their communication networks were down. Their supply lines were broken. Their military forces were scattered and demoralized. For the first time in 1,000 years, the HFY were afraid. Marcus received a message from Commander Vex himself. The alien leader who had orchestrated humanity's enslavement was requesting a meeting. He wanted to negotiate. "The human species has proven to be more resilient than we anticipated," Vex's message said. "Perhaps we were hasty in our methods. The collective is prepared to offer humanity a position of honor within our federation. Equal partners, not subjects." Marcus read the message aloud to his command staff. When he finished, everyone was silent. For a moment, then Sarah started laughing. Soon everyone was laughing. The idea that the HFY thought they could still negotiate after everything they had done was absurd. Marcus composed his reply carefully. It was short and simple. The Kethver homeworld had never been attacked in its entire history. For 3,000 years, the planet Kethveron had been the center of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Its cities stretched across entire continents. Its orbital stations could house millions of beings. Its defenses were thought to be impregnable. Marcus Chun stood on the bridge of the human flagship, watching the planet grow larger on the viewing screen. Around him, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled moved through space like a pack of hunting wolves. 300 ships, all built or captured during the 2-year war that had torn the Kethver collective apart. Final approach in 30 minutes, reported Captain Torres from the navigation station. Lisa had become Marcus's second-in-command, leading the human fleet with a combination of military precision and burning hatred that terrified their enemies. The war had not been easy. For every victory, humanity had paid a terrible price. Entire human colonies had been wiped out by desperate Kethver counterattacks. Brave men and women had died in suicide missions against impossible odds. But with each battle, humanity had grown stronger while their enemies grew weaker. The other species in the galaxy had watched in amazement as the humans systematically destroyed their former masters. The Veltari, who had been enslaved for 800 years, finally rebelled when they saw that the Kethver could be beaten. The Zephyrians followed soon after, then the Crystalline Collective. One by one, the 12 subject species rose up against their oppressors. The Kethver Empire crumbled from within as every conquered people remembered what freedom felt like. But humanity was not satisfied with liberation. They wanted justice. Incoming transmission from the planet's surface, Sarah reported from the communication station. She had insisted on being part of the final assault, despite Marcus's concerns for her safety. "It is Commander Vex." The main screen flickered to life, showing the alien who had orchestrated humanity's suffering. Vex looked older now, his gray skin pale and drawn. The confidence that had once made him seem invincible was gone, replaced by barely concealed fear. "Admiral Chun," Vex said, his voice steady despite his obvious terror. "I request permission to surrender the planet. The Kethver High Council is prepared to accept any terms you offer." Marcus looked at the alien who had destroyed his world and enslaved his people. For a moment, he said nothing. The bridge was completely silent except for the quiet hum of ship systems. "Commander Vex," Marcus finally replied, "do you remember what you told me when your people first came to Earth?" Vex's large black eyes blinked slowly. "I do not understand." "You said you came in friendship. You said you wanted to help humanity grow and learn. You promised that our people would return home with amazing knowledge." Marcus's voice remained calm, but everyone on the bridge could hear the anger beneath it. "Admiral, please. That was a different time. We were following orders from the High Council." "I personally had nothing against humanity," Marcus smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "You also said something else, Commander. You said that strength was the only language the universe respected. You were right about that?" The transmission cut off. Marcus turned to his tactical officer. "Begin the assault." The attack on Kethveron was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human ships moved in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully coordinated chaos. They struck at defensive positions from impossible angles. They used the planet's own orbital stations as weapons. Ramming captured Kethver ships into military installations, but this was not just a military operation. This was an execution. Dr. Elena Vasquez led the ground assault on the planet's capital city. Her team had specific targets: the government buildings where the High Council made their decisions, the communication centers that had coordinated the oppression of billions of beings, and the ceremonial platforms where alien executions had been broadcast across the galaxy. "Remember," Elena told her soldiers as their dropships approached the surface, "we are not here to conquer. We are here to end this." The Kethver defense forces collapsed within hours. Most of their military had been destroyed during the 2-year war. The few remaining soldiers surrendered immediately when they realized they were facing humans. Elena's team reached the High Council chambers just as the alien leaders were attempting to evacuate. The council members who had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years found themselves surrounded by the former slaves they had tormented. "You cannot do this," wheezed High Counselor Thekmor, the oldest and most powerful Kethver leader. "We are willing to negotiate. We will give you anything you want." Elena looked at the alien who had personally approved the harvest of Earth. "You had your chance to negotiate 5 years ago. You chose to make us slaves instead. But we can make amends. We can restore your world, return your people, share our technology freely." "Our world is already restored," Elena replied. "Our people are already free, and your technology belongs to us now." She gestured to her soldiers, who began setting up equipment around the chamber. The same kind of broadcasting equipment the Kethver had used to show human executions across their empire. "What are you doing?" Thekmor asked, his voice rising in panic. "We are giving you the same courtesy you gave our leaders," Elena said calmly. "A public execution broadcast to every world in the galaxy. The trial of the Kethver High Council lasted exactly 1 hour. The charges were simple: genocide, enslavement, and crimes against every sentient species in their territory. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty. As the executions began, Marcus received reports from across the galaxy. Human fleets had reached every remaining Kethver stronghold. The last alien military forces were surrendering. Without a fight. The empire that had ruled the stars for 3 millennia was ending not with a battle, but with a whimper. "What are your orders regarding the surviving Kethver civilians?" Captain Torres asked. Marcus considered the question carefully. There were millions of ordinary Kethver citizens who had never personally harmed anyone. Children who had been born into the empire without choosing its crimes. Farmers and workers who had simply lived their lives under the system their leaders created. Exile, he decided. Strip them of all technology above basic survival level. Scatter them to uninhabited worlds where they can live simple lives. Let them learn what it means to build something from nothing. And their leaders? Marcus looked at the execution broadcast on his screen. Commander Vex was being led to the platform where so many humans had died. The alien's composure finally broke as he realized what was about to happen. "All of them," Marcus said simply. "Every single one who gave orders, everyone who enforced those orders, everyone who profited from suffering." He paused. "We are not conquerors, Lisa. We are executioners." The last Kethver leader died at sunset on their homeworld. As the alien's body fell, a cheer went up from human ships across the galaxy. Not a cheer of victory, but of justice finally served. In the days that followed, humanity faced a new challenge. They had destroyed the most powerful empire in galactic history. 12 liberated species looked to them for leadership. Hundreds of worlds needed new governments. An entire galaxy had to be rebuilt. Some human leaders wanted to create a new empire with humanity at its center. Others argued for a federation where all species were equal. There were debates about how to handle former Kethver technology, how to prevent future tyrannies, and how to heal the wounds of 1,000-year oppression. Marcus stood in his quarters, aboard the flagship, looking out at the stars through the observation window. Somewhere among those lights were worlds where human children were being born free, where former slaves were building new lives, where entire species were learning to govern themselves for the first time in centuries. A message notification blinked on his personal screen. It was from Earth, where reconstruction had turned the devastated planet into something better than it had ever been before. Cities powered by alien technology but designed with human values. Orbital stations that served as meeting places for a dozen different species. A world that had become the unofficial capital of a new galactic civilization. The message was from his nephew, the son of the sister he had lost during the harvest. The boy had been born during the war and had never known the old Earth. To him, a galaxy where humans and aliens worked together as equals was normal. "Uncle Marcus," the message read. "Mom told me you are coming home soon. I have been studying the stars with my teacher. She is a Veltari who escaped from the slave camps. She says you and your friends saved the galaxy, is that true? Marcus smiled as he composed his reply. We did not save the galaxy, David. We just reminded it that bullies always lose in the end. The real heroes are people like your teacher who survived horrible things and chose to build something better. He paused, thinking about all the people who had died to reach this moment. Sarah, who had been killed in the assault on a Kethver communication station. Colonel Mitchell, who had died defending Earth during a counterattack. Dr. Rodriguez, who had sacrificed himself to destroy an alien weapons facility. They had all paid the ultimate price to ensure that no species would ever again suffer what humanity had endured.